It is coordinated, okay. Maybe I'll say hello, Christina Robertson Carter, planning, and you do you.
Okay, we're going to get started. All right, and for a little bit of grace tonight, you're dealing with the captain of the B team without Chair SB. So we're going to get started. Today's date is April 14th, 2025. This is the Planning Commission work session. And we're going to start with a roll call, I believe, correct? If you don't mind, take it away.
Commissioner Schlagenhofer,
Here.
Commissioner Stoll,
Here.
Commissioner Laws. You're muted, Carla.
She said here.
Yeah.
We saw her. Yeah, we know her here.
Vice Chair Dole.
Here.
And we are missing Commissioner Meinig and Chair SB.
Yes. Thank you for that.
And LaSalle. And Commissioner LaSalle.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started with presentations.
Before you do that, can I just have the floor for a minute?
Yes, please do.
Vice Chair Dole. My name is Carrie Richter. I'm the Deputy City Attorney, and I wanted to announce to the Planning Commission that I will soon be the City Attorney because the City Attorney is retiring. And I wanted to introduce you to our new land use colleague, Melissa Ryan. She comes to us from the Land Use Board of Appeals, which is the appellate court where all land use cases are heard. So I'm going to let her do her own introduction, but I am thrilled to have Missy join our firm, and I'm thrilled to welcome her as part of our team here in Oregon City. And I think the plan for right now will be that I will take more of the city commission meetings and Melissa will take more of the planning commission meetings, but we are a team and we'll continue to tag team as I have with Bill. So I hope it will be a seamless transition, but I just wanted to, and before I send Missy to the Sharks, I wanted to, I just wanted to let you know that I'm still around and we're still here and Bill's gonna be here until the end of the month. And so that's the plan going forward. Melissa, would you like to say a few things?
Hi, thank you, Carrie, so much for that. I actually go by Missy, so please feel free to call me that. And as Carrie already mentioned, I was a LUBA referee for 18 years. So that was from 2006 to 2025, just earlier this year. Prior to that, I was in private practice for 8 years, and I've been a lawyer actually for about 25 years, or possibly maybe 26 years. And really enjoying this new chapter, and glad to be working with Carrie, and sad to be not working with Bill for very much longer. But in particular, it's been just a hugely warm welcome from everyone that I've met with the city. So thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Thanks, Melissa. We're glad to have you. Carrie, we're going to miss you a little bit, I think, right? And then we'll wish Bill happy retirement. So, okay. All right, I think now we're ready for some presentations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dole. Planning Commission. My name is Christina Robertson Gardner, Senior Planner with Planning Department.
And good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Ann Griffin, and I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Oregon City.
And just wanted to chime in. We're still having technical issues, so probably just use your physical copy. So.
Good old paper.
Thank you. So I will go through each page of the PowerPoint and kind of provide an overview. Ann's going to kind of take some of the middle pieces of the PowerPoint and I'll end. And I'll identify the title of each page so you can follow along. So we're at presentation purpose page. And this, the Thimble Creek Concept Plan Market Assessment was paid for by a grant through Metro that both the Planning Department and Economic Development applied for. And this is really just one piece of a larger process, which is what are the barriers in this area and what can the city do to reduce or remove those barriers to help redevelopment? And so there's no action required tonight. Kind of our goal is to give you an update of where we are in the process, next steps, and then where we may see the Planning Commission might be involved in the future. We do have 2 champions involved with our city commission. Mayor McGriff and Commissioner Mitchell have been identified as 2 project champions. So any comments you have this evening will forward on to them as they move forward on their next steps for this. So the plan is attached to the agenda as well, but both Ann and I will kind of go through a brief overview of what we learned and kind of what we think, what the city should do with this document. So next page is a background. So the Thimble Creek concept plan area was kind of born as the Beaver Creek Road concept plan. It was brought into the urban growth boundary, I believe in 2002 or 2003. It was adopted as a concept plan in 2008. And it was implemented through zoning, and 2 of you on the board were here with me in 2020 when the Oregon City adopted its implementing zoning. So this area, for areas, it had a concept plan, and for areas that were in the city, they actually had correct zoning. So that was done in 2020, and we haven't had a lot of movement since then for the non-residential portions. We have some movement on the golf course on the residential side, but the areas that you see for the Thimble Creek concept plan, the areas in blue are employment areas. Those are really looking at kind of what you think of more of a campus industrial, a jobs-oriented approach. This is really a concept plan that looked at marrying jobs and housing together. So the jobs portion, the area you see in purple is kind of a hybrid between uses that might be allowed in our mixed-use corridor to kind of larger offices, some commercial, and residential would be allowed on the second floor up rather than having it primarily residential. So there's been some slow market adoption. There's many reasons why. And so this is where there's not one easy answer. And so we really wanted to help have an outside consulting firm kind of look at it through an economic development and market assessment lens and understand what are the factors that may be constraining development from occurring, and what are some policies the city could adopt to help reduce those. One of them, as we'll talk about, could be targetedly amending the land use code, but there are a lot of other policy recommendations that aren't necessarily tied to the Planning Commission that are more maybe fiscal related or grants or collaboration with property owners that are more at the city commission level. So the next slide says employment land, and I'm going to hand it over to Ann, who's going to talk a little bit about why employment is important for Oregon City and why this document is really helpful in us to kind of move to the next steps.
Thank you, Christina. We wanted to remind the City Commission, as we were reviewing this work with them, about why employment land is important. And as Christina said, there's been some movement in the Thimble Creek area in terms of new residential development, but really a city needs jobs. We need people that are earning money. And on the economic development side, we're always looking for ways to attract new companies or to assist businesses that are already here to expand and to just always have higher, better paying jobs and a variety of jobs for our residents. Some of the goals that we have, including to have sustainable wages so that you're in a job track, you have not just a paycheck, but a career. One of the things that's in the report from Johnson and HHPR was this jobs to household balance as a larger picture of overall health of a community. It helps people to work closer to where they live, but also just, again, has people spending money locally and contributing to the local economy if they're earning money close to where they live. And that also comes down to that third bullet point, which is that complete community. One of the more important things as well in terms of having jobs is that you've got employers paying taxes and you also just contributing to the overall fiscal health of the community when there's jobs located there. So I don't think we can overstress the importance of having job opportunities, economic opportunities within the community. You know, we don't want to become what's called a bedroom community, which is all residential. On the next slide, it says factors impacting pace of development. Some of these won't be surprises to you, but I think when you look at so we have these ideas of developing residential and industrial commercial uses. Why are the industrial and the commercial uses lagging behind? Some of the reasons have to do with just the size of the lots. This particular slide shows the acreage of some of the areas. I think maybe the largest parcel in this whole area is about 21 and a half acres. Not a particularly large acreage for significant development. A lot of developers that we're looking for when they're looking for a campus industrial use, maybe looking for 40 acres. We get calls sometimes, we're looking for 10 acres. I'm like, well, how about 3? So, sometimes the size that we have spoken with multiple property owners in this area and looking as ways to try to assemble land assembly, and something that we're also talking and meeting with different property owners to see if we can make that come, but that remains a challenge. And you'll also see what the purple the purple lines in this map or this area, this graphic shows what's intended to be the future transportation network in the area. That would have a street being developed that runs in parallel with Beaver Creek as a way to divert traffic off of that road, and almost a couplet coming. That has intimidated a few folks as they've thought about the future property, the development of their own property. So those things, the lot sizes, the future transportation network, and some of the public infrastructure costs related to stormwater and stormwater and other costs, all add into the factor that's slowing down pace of development. The next slide has the same title, additional factors. These are ones that are maybe a little more, we can touch and address, but some of, including development code standards and development incentives and fundings. That's again, in the economic development department, a big part of what we try to do is put together incentive packages or help folks with their development processes so that we can make it as easy for them as possible. The next slide is entitled Policy Considerations. Again, what we asked the Johnson Economics and HHPR team to do was to give us a series of recommendations. And this is really meant as a graph, like from nothing, do nothing, just have the market make the changes, versus some of the lower hanging fruit, if you will, in terms of updating the concept plan and addressing some of the areas in the development code that could potentially be addressed to address some concerns that developers may have, and Christina will speak to those in just a moment. This moderate option, which is partnering with Clackamas Community College of the various parcels in the area, one of the largest ones that was recently on the market was sold, 20 acres or so, that was purchased by Clackamas Community College. CCC is a great partner, not a tax-paying partner, but a great partner. But we do believe that there may be some opportunity there to work with the college as they're looking to how they're going to develop potentially for student housing, but also being able to do some uses that would, bring innovation. They have a wonderful development, their metal labs and their development lab that we may be able to partner with some folks. There's good innovation happening at CCC that could potentially help bring in an employer. All the way up to some of the higher options, which would be, coming up with financial incentives on the city side to contribute to infrastructure development.
Okay, the next slide says development code. And there's 2 slides that talk a little bit about the initial recommendations from Johnson Economics and HHPR, which subcontracted with them, and analyzed our code. And as someone who was involved at the beginning in 2000 for implementing code, I'm always up for targeted, strategic changes to the code if we think, not quite there, or we kind of overregulated, or we did not getting quite the right approach. But I think whatever comes back, we still need to meet the intent of the Thimble Creek Concept Plan, which is an integrated employment housing that does have low intensity development incentives and development patterns. So what will come, if there are directions from the City Commission to look at legislative changes, it probably will be targeted, and we still need to show compliance. We're not redoing the Thimble Creek Concept Plan, but we can kind of say, are we dialing in correctly? And one of the items they've identified is outdoor storage. The Thimble Creek area of the campus industrial zone does have some limits on outdoor storage, because as a community, we were really worried, since there's a finite amount of land, we didn't want to have a development just have a lot of outdoor storage, which is not very job intensive. And since a lot of the Thimble Creek Concept Plan was looking at jobs, we had identified code that really was trying to push people towards that, but is that to the point where no development really can be realized because of it. So that may be one thing that might come back to the Planning Commission, is what's the right amount of open space, or how do we look at outdoor storage space as it relates to a development. So you'll see in this, it just looks at, this is analysis from the plan that looked at how we should look at outdoor storage areas. The next slide, it says development of code. So these are the main recommendations that came out of the analysis, which is to allow more outdoor storage space, to decrease the buffer requirements between residential zoning and the development, which you don't necessarily, it's a little bit higher, the setback requirements. So is that something that we should be looking at? So that's looking at setbacks, warehousing and distribution as a permitted accessory use. So that's that conversation of that jobs ratio of a really large warehousing building is great for tax base, but it doesn't necessarily employ a lot of people. So what is that balance, and do we have the right code for that? And then consider reviewing and reducing the number of sustainability requirements. Right now in the Thimble Creek code section, there is some green development requirements as part of your site plan design review. It's a pick and so many out of a list. So are those items enough? Is the ratio of how many you pick for the items? So that may be a thing to look at, which is how do we make sure that we're not creating a barrier for redevelopment, but we aren't kind of leaving the goal of the Thimble Creek Concept Plan. So those, if the City Commission chooses to move forward, these are kind of the things that might come back to the Planning Commission in work sessions and through a future legislative process. I'm going to give it back to Ann for the next slide that says infrastructure funding.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that one of the issues that some developers are facing, or developers, is how do we fund some of the infrastructure, a variety of ways to do that. And we'll be working again with the City Commission champions to help put together what we think could be ways to incentivize development with some of these support mechanisms, such as state loans or grants, or a local improvement district, though that does say are not recommended. If you're not familiar with an LID, but it's a local district. At one point, Oregon City did have an LID in its downtown, and that helped with a lot of the renovations of the buildings along Main Street, or with tax increment finance is another potential option. These are typical options for looking for financing to support public infrastructure projects. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, so the final slide says next steps. And so the City Commission received a presentation by the consultant, I think about a month ago, and that's where they identified the concept of champions, because this is pushing a boulder up a hill a little bit. So having, dedicated city commissioners that kind of are going to be watching this and collaborating with staff to try to figure out what are the right strategies, I think are really important. And so the two champions were identified, which was Mayor McGriff and Commissioner Mitchell. And they'll be meeting with our economic development staff and planning staff. And then as part of the grant, we actually do need to adopt the document by resolution, say we acknowledge it. And so that will be, the document you kind of attached will be adopted by resolution in May by the City Commission, which finalizes our grant program and says, we acknowledge we received this and we'll move forward on for future work plan. It doesn't really, it's not adopting it, it's more acknowledging. And so those are kind of the next steps. The commission champions, really as part of their city commission work plan, will identify what they want to do for next steps. And we will integrate in with the planning commission if land use changes are coming out of one of their recommendations. So that's really all we have tonight. Ann and I are happy to answer questions, and we're happy to forward on any just general comments you have from the planning commission members to our champions.
Well, we thank you both for that. That was great. Let's look at any questions from fellow commissioners. Go ahead, Commissioner Stoll.
I'm not familiar with local improvement districts. Can you just give me an overview of what that is?
Sure. Thanks for that question. Local improvement district is an area where the different property owners agree to contribute to a local fund that will help for, things like the improvements of storefronts in a particular commercial area, or sometimes it's for like sidewalk improvements or other infrastructure improvements, but it's paid specifically by the property owners. Property owners in a particular area agree to enter into an LID, and it's a legal arrangement that has a certain amount of time. It's time constrained, and there's a certain assessment rate that's agreed to within the property owners. It's difficult to implement because you have to get every property owner to sign on.
Yeah, it works when you have one or two property owners with an idea, and it's a great implementation tool, but it's not really a tool if you're dealing with multiple property owners who may have different visions and goals.
Does it exist outside of the cap for property taxes?
I believe because and I'm not the expert on LID, but it is its own like separate funding mechanism.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schaugenhofer.
Thank you. I see tax increment financing in bonds. I see that used in urban renewal. Is this exactly the same? Is it a little different if it's not urban renewal?
So I think what Johnson Economics wanted to do is kind of give them the full scope of what could be used. So to kind of understand and help guide them with a recommendation. So I would say on one end is the do nothing and wait for the market to come, which is a perfectly reasonable answer if that's what you want to do. The other one is kind of the farthest on this end, which is to create a new urban renewal district and identify projects and take out bonds to build those projects. So that's kind of the bookends. And then there are options in between or combinations thereof. So they were trying to explain, here's the different ways and all the options that you could as a community choose.
Okay, so if we were to use tax increment financing, we would have to make a new urban renewal district.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and urban renewal districts follow their own state statute. We have, as many of you may recall, we are working through that issue. That is a political decision that would come out of the city commission.
Correct. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Do we know if Commissioner Laws has any questions? I just can't, I don't have a visual on there.
Commissioner Laws, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
She does, you heard her, okay. Well, for the benefit of everyone else, she does not have any questions.
I had two simple ones. Does the city of Oregon City, do we currently own any property out in the Thimble Creek? No, okay. And then, have we heard from any prospective developers, employers, anything in that area that is leading, looking at design changes or standards to, any thoughts there from Economic Development Department?
Yeah, I mean, as part of this was some interviews with development community, and so
Okay.
there was some comment, feedback from recent pre-application conference. I think a lot of it is really the siting size, the infrastructure. I mean, this is giving you ad hoc comments of my experience, but what we're getting is cost of development and size of building is a big one, and outdoor storage actually has been a piece. One thing is hidden a little bit in the document, but When the concept plan was adopted in 2008, I think there was a much higher belief of what could be situated underneath the BPA power lines. We knew buildings couldn't be under there, but I think there was a understanding back in 2008 that more things could be placed, like parking lots and storage, outdoor storage. And as time goes on, there's more and more restrictions about what actually can be placed under those BPA power lines. So some of that assumption was built into the initial plan that we may need to look back. And that's why outdoor storage may need to be allowed to be more, because it can't be just put under the power lines.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, well, if no more questions, is that the end of the work session?
And again, I would just say, if you do have other questions, feel free to reach out to either Christina or I, and I'm happy to give you more information reports of the folks we talked to putting this together.
Yeah, and if there's anything you want to pass on, as planning commissioners, both tonight or individually, I can forward those on to our champions as we move forward on the process.
Okay, well, thank you very much, both of you.
Thank
Okay, go
you.
to communications, any communications?
Not
the
for
work
the work session.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so we're adjourned.
we're adjourned.
All right, cool,
Okay.
thank you.